treated properly and early enough. The good news is that trachoma can be prevented. One of the ways that increase the risk of trachoma is keeping dirty faces. Dirty faces attract flies that carry the germs that cause trachoma. Here is what you can do to protect your children from trachoma. Wash the faces of your children at least twice a day, in the morning when they wake up and in the evening before they go to bed. Clean their faces with clean water and soap every time they are dirty. To keep away the flies that transmit trachoma, wash away the discharge in the eyes or mucus on the nose as soon as you see it. After washing the child's face, leave it to dry naturally in the sun or by the air. Now, here is what you can do to protect yourself from trachoma. Wash your face with clean water and soap in the morning and in the evening, where possible every time it is dirty.
Remember, clean hands, a clean face, and a clean homestead keep trachoma away.
On this very stage last season stood 20 contestants, real people with real stories, whose NSSF benefits changed their lives forever for the better.
This year, the stories are even more powerful. 16 new contestants with 16 new inspirational stories will grace this very same stage for a bigger and better Season 2 of the NSSF Friends with Benefits show.
And the best part of this show is you, the viewer, gets to vote for your top 3 contestants who will win a combined total of 55 million shillings.
The NSSF Friends with Benefits show, proudly brought to you by NSSF, a better life.
Pick up yourself.
Yeah, greetings, massive. Everything I man is lying to the more representative.
Well, nice and smart.
Go down, wicked man, go down.
Afro-Jam represents Africa's finest reggae vibes TV show. Wanting called the Jam Rock Vibration. Lock up for the toppest them roots reggae music. Lovers Rock.
Hello, can you hear me?
Dancehall reggae entertainment. Only on UBC TV Kampala. You know, miss all the toppers from N Classics, Dub Billboard Topper Shots, War Premieres, Artist Prophets them. Along with the one African toppers reggae vibes dub selector. The one Gaza emissary woman gosh him DJ. Blaze up on party nice. Kaboom.
How can you really believe in some being up in the sky that you can't even see?
Sometimes you have to see with your heart.
I had a very strange dream. The Lord, in His infinite mercy, will reveal its meaning.
I lifted up and I looked down. Mom was in one room, you were in another room yelling at God.
For you, Lord, are righteous, yet we rebelled against your command.
We need to get him in surgery right away.
The pain that I suffered watching my son that close to death.
On the ocean. We need a solution. We need it now.
And we'll get it.
How?
By not losing our faith.
Like how a single one. No, I've still got a lot of fire left in me.
The World Cup is
is here again. Join Peter Otai every Tuesday and Sunday as he brings to you the Road to the World Cup Russia, as he looks at every team, stadium, players, and history, here on UBC TV.
It's quite the most remarkable piece of goalkeeping.
The quest, giver of life, Alpha without Omega. I am Africa.
Hail to Uganda, the Pearl of Africa, a land with the world's most beautiful, captivating features. Hills, mountains and valleys, the enigmatic animal species in the wild. A land where Africa is condensed into one small country with authentic endowments of nature and perfect safari. Uganda, the Pearl of Africa, is without the crowds with abundant primates, wildlife and stunning scenery. Uganda, the Pearl of Africa, takes you beyond the guidebooks, the known features, and gives you the insights unmatched. Keep it UBC TV, where we inspire Uganda with authentic beauty and nature of our motherland. Uganda, the Pearl of Africa. Discover the fountain.
UBC, and welcome to tonight's edition of Focus on Development, where we shall be focusing on child protection. And with me in the studios to discuss this broad topic is David Wangu, who's the child protection specialist. We also have Helen Mulira, who's a child protection and people care specialist, and Annabelle Nakabiri, who's the director, the Remnant Generation. You're all welcome to the show.
Thank you so much.
Yes, let's start with you, Helen. Give us the overview of this concept of child protection.
The concept of child protection emerges with policies and initiatives that are geared towards preventing children, preventing children or protecting them from any form of abuse. But in line with CREAM, we are a network of organizations, over 140 organizations, including schools and churches. And in this work that we do, we are all focusing, all these organizations and the members in this network are looking at protecting children and ensuring that children are safe, well, and fulfilling their God-given potential.
Annabelle, do children require any protection?
The answer to that is yes. Like we are talking about development right now of the country, and I think that a country's development is not really measured by the infrastructure or just the amount of money that we have in our coffers, but rather by the quality of children and young people that we are raising. So when we talk about child protection and the question whether children need to be protected, it's a definite yes, because these children guarantee the future of Uganda, and therefore they need to be protected because they are being abused every day.
Is there any particular area where you know maybe there are rights at stake that require this specific attention?
Yes, for example, personally, Remnant Generation is a member of CRANE, but what we really focus on under our organization is victims of sexual abuse and girls that have conceived as a result of abuse and they become teenage mothers. And basically these girls' opportunities, these girls' lives are being affected every day. Just before we came into studio this evening, I just received a letter from somebody informing me about a girl who has been, defiled by her father. 10 years old, and she's HIV positive. So the very people that are supposed to protect the children are the very people that are abusing them. So, and it is happening everywhere. It is not even about a geographical area of the country that, let's talk about the north or just Kampala. It's happening everywhere in Uganda and around the world.
This particular case you have just received, are parents running out of their senses? Is it a generational challenge? What could you attribute the example you've just given us to?
I think there are so many reasons behind this. One of that could be like a breakdown in the family system in general. I think there is a shift that we have not observed with our physical eyes, but that is happening drastically, that we are seeing the family unit basically just dying out, and where we're having parents working so hard to be able to sustain their children and families and businesses and neglecting their responsibilities of parenting. And then there is also these issues of alcohol abuse and drug substance abuse that is just affecting the way people are thinking and behaving. And then all the influences that come with pornography, the influences that are coming with society, and the bitterness and anger that people are having that is undealt with, that is all bringing in all these issues to basically affect the child
we
from
shall
home.
Keep at this case of the defilement case you've just raised. Now, in this case, having gotten a call for help, where do you begin in trying to help or address such a challenge?
What happens is that whenever we get a call, and I know that under CRANE there are different child protection mechanisms, and I'm sure that my colleagues are going to be able to talk about that. But in our organization, what we do is that when we get a call, we definitely run to where the call has come from, if it is within our vicinity. Sometimes it is far, and we need to identify who is the partner in that particular area where we can make a referral for that child to be helped. But if this child is within proximity, we are able to go. The first place would be to police. And then basically, because if it's a case that is being reported and it is aggravated defilement, definitely there is police involved. So we basically go to police and report the case if it has not been reported, and then we try to identify the people that are involved in this whole process. We work with the probation officers, we work with the family members that are there that are willing to actually provide evidence. Sometimes family wants to cover it all up. In this case, this was an incest, it's an incest case. It is a father who has been defiling his daughter, and many times mothers who don't want, they won't want to report. All the siblings in the family setting don't want to report, but we try to do our best to rescue and then refer this girl if there is not much we can do in our own capacity, but within the network there are other partners that can handle a particular area of this particular case. And if a girl is pregnant, they will come into our care because we have a home for pregnant girls, and then they'll go through rehabilitation and then until they are able to deliver their babies and then walk a journey of healing from all the trauma that they've experienced out of this.
Yes. Turning to you, David, what is your quick reaction to this incident where the father takes on his own child and really does a heinous act?
I think that a situation like that is a situation of a kind of moral decay, I could say. and given, as she stated, that the family breakdown, whereby responsibility has been shifted. You find that the parents have given up on responsibility for their daughters. And what we find actually, because we have the Girl Education Challenge as CRANE that we work in 5 districts. And amazingly, over 4 years, we've worked with around 500 girls that have given birth before the age of nearly 18. And you find that the structures that we have in communities are not in any way doing a lot to avert such issues. You find that the families, because statistics show that 70% of these cases are happening in family.
Yes.
And so you find that the moments of talking to the girls and also trying to build values, family values of respecting and growing children in the way that is desired are not available currently in this country. And so there's a whole lot of work to be done, and it is not just the family, but everybody. We as CRANE, we believe that a collaborative mechanism is essential, beginning from the children themselves, to understand their value, to understand what they should do and not do, because some of these children know and they can signal and understand that somebody is trying to do something that is contrary to what the child desires. But definitely, the degree of participation for children in this country is low. You know that in our families, our children are taken as the lowest tier of humanity. And so you find that the fathers are at the peak and the mothers probably next. And so the children take in silent issues and they don't participate or express what they feel.
Yeah, I know you've taken much time to do some additional research to dig deep where the problem could be. When we are talking about these issues that are surrounding the child, where is the church? Are we seeing government active in trying to help? And what went wrong? Do we see society as a whole actively playing their role in ensuring that the child is protected?
The government has taken steps because the rights of children are embedded in the UNCRC, the Convention on Rights for the Children, and of course the African Charter, and even the Child's Act has just been amended in 2016. But definitely that's not enough. Of course we have probation officers, we have police, but there needs to go and people to go an extra mile. You find cases, for example, of defilement, whereby the police is in delay, and you know some of the principles of child protection is that time factor is a critical issue. And so you find that the police either connives with the families, and you find that the cases are somehow kept under the carpet and they are not handled. So basically, the government is doing a great work. However, there needs to be resourcing. The Child and Family Protection Unit at the police stations need to be more resourced, because you find some of these cases, if we don't have NGOs that come in, they die away. Of course, the churches, as CRANE, we are working in 150 partners that we have. 6 of them at least are churches, because we believe that the church has a superior role, actually, because even in the books, the Bible, whether the Quran, it is clear that God took us up as children. And so we believe that handling children as a church is a priority. However, even in our messages in church, the children should come out. The issues should come out.
Yes, Helen, what are some of the commonly registered issues?
Of abuse?
Yes, when we are talking about child-related issues.
They are usually categorized in 4. And the first one is sexual abuse, physical abuse, emotional abuse, and child neglect. And when you talk about all these, they are, emotional abuse can be attached differently, but all these abuses still come to a level they have emotional abuse. So in sexual abuse, you will find issues of aggravated defilement, you will find pornography, children being exposed to such materials, you will find incest issues, you will find child-to-child sex, where sometimes children also consent into these sexual relationships. And even then, as children, if they are above the age of criminal liability, they are able to face the law. There's a way they are handled in the law so that it promotes behavior change. Then in issues of physical abuse, it's quite a number. We have corporal punishment in schools. There's pushing, beating with wires and all. So all these cases, they amount to a certain level of abuse. And in statistics to show neglect as a category of abuse comes out to be outstanding across, because most of the cases you realize that parents are neglecting their responsibility, taking children to school, basic needs at home. They are abandoned in their homes for maybe they go for travels or business trips, and these children, probably some of them become even child-headed homes. You find a child of about 13 years is caring for an 8-year-old, a 4-year-old, and a 2-year-old. So they are quite immense, and when you break them down, you find that each case is unique in its own way.
I'm interested to know more about emotional abuse.
Emotional abuse is some kind of abuse that you can't easily measure. You can't, because you can easily measure the gravity of physical abuse.
Yes.
You can easily say that, you broke my arm and it's this aggravated danger. But in terms of emotional abuse, it does not come out to light unless someone is able to understand that child in a unique way, to understand how this abuse has impacted their emotions as a child. These emotions, the emotions becoming at a level of abuse, you find that the child cannot go to school. They will perform lowly in class. They will have different issues to cope up with self-esteem. You will tell them this, some girls are abused in class, you have big breasts, and that will, prevent them from attending class. And that is emotion, and you do not know how much impact it has caused that child for them not to come to class again.
Yes, Annabelle, I want something to build up from what Helena said, taking you from remnant generation. And we're seeing civil society trying to really create a legislation or some sort of position that is going to create over-pampering of these children. I know some of the cases really are genuine. I'll give you an example. I was watching news yesterday. A parent sends a child to school. I think in the process he gave the child to a younger sister who did not help the boy reach school. So in the process, the boy does not reach school, then he's picked up by police, then takes the child to school. On establishing, the boy was somewhere playing. So the furious father comes at school after being called, then he administers some punishment to the boy to really show the other pupils at school that it's wrong for you to get to school and not reach there. Now, the action of punishing the pupil is attracting a lot of condemnation from the civil society. Don't you think you're also trying to curtail the parent's role by condemning him, and yet he wanted the child really to know that what he did by not reaching at school, he actually left home in the morning and reached at school at midday. And he was somewhere playing along the road. So aren't you really creating some scenarios that are going to pamper these children, and at the end of the day they are going to become hopeless rather than becoming better?
I think we should appreciate the difference between punishment and discipline. For me, that is where, how do you tell that now I'm disciplining a child or I'm actually punishing? Because then with punishment, it is very inevitable for you to end up abusing that child. So when I watched that video, because it went viral, it went viral on social media, and when I watched it, I realized that at first people thought it was the teacher. So everyone was like, how could they? And then when the story rather changed and said, no, it was the father, then they realized, that was overbeating. You realize that, as a parent, when you are beating your child, or when you are trying to discipline your child, but when you're angry, you're just trying to satisfy your anger. You're not actually helping this child to learn their mistake. But if this parent is able to realize that there are alternative ways of disciplining a child than actually ending up battering them, because still the message will go home. We are not saying it is wrong for parents to discipline their children. No, I'm a parent myself. And when my son has done something wrong, I will tell him that is wrong. But how do you approach it? You know, what is the emotion behind your action? Because with the dad, the emotion was anger. And when he later confessed before police, he said, you know, I work hard, you know, it is very difficult to get money. So you have a lot of emotions of betrayal, of everything. So once you get an opportunity to hit somebody, you bring it all out. Because you couldn't slap your boss, you couldn't beat your wife because she didn't prepare tea in the morning. So now you bring it all out on that child. Even like now, you end up beating. And I've had parents that use that opportunity, especially women, when they want to abuse their husband, but they can't do it directly. They'll say, you're stupid, like you're whatever. But, you know, and they'll continue with all those words. So there is physical abuse, there is emotional abuse. So civil society is not trying to take away the role of family.
The child more? Civil society or the parents?
I know, parents should, but we are all concerned citizens. Okay, we are all concerned citizens, and there is no manual for parenting. You agree with me? So this is a role that we are all learning on the job, and we should appreciate some inspiration, some guidance on how to do it well. Because at the end of that day, some of us who grew up in a culture where beating was the only form of discipline, there are things that we look back and say, now that didn't work for me. Actually, I remember in school when you used to have poor grades and the teacher comes up beating, or they call your parent to school. We even had names of, you know, Solido. You know, you put there your back and they beat, and then you stand up and even clean your back.
That's why you have this title.
You know, so yes,
that's why you have this title.
No, you should hear the journey that got me there. But just to say that, you know, parents are expected to be the number one, you know, support system for any children. They're expected to have the role, like the primary role of nurturing and raising children. But unfortunately, why civil society is coming out is because the very people that are supposed to protect and nurture the children are the very people that have exposed them to a lot of abuse. And we are coming in just to see how we can work together, not how to suppress.
Yes. David, do you have any statistics in terms of maybe the cases of abuse we've seen over time?
Over time, of course, beginning with the children, at least 50% of the country's population is children, of course. Outstandingly, neglect is at the uppermost, because definitely beginning with the absentee fathers, it's one of the issues, by the way, that is catching up like fire in this country, whereby the fathers have given up their role. We have a lot of families that are headed by the mothers, and of course that signals challenges that we are going to face probably in the long term, because the father figure is not around.
Why are they running away?
Definitely, why the fathers are running away, there has been a lot of changes in this system.
Is it because the wives are disciplined? What's the problem?
There is a mindset that because the wives are empowered and that the men are moving away. That's a mindset that is currently on the norm everywhere, that there is a whole lot of empowering of women somewhere and somewhere. But definitely I don't significantly agree with that. I just believe that when women are empowered, the nation is empowered, definitely. And when we say statistics of growth and development, we target to the fact that we have at least a great percentage of women that now are in education, and some that are even members of parliament. So the rise is not actually to chase away the men. The issue is that the men have drawn back from responsibilities because the women have chosen to take up responsibilities. And of course, this trickles down to the children, that they miss a father figure. So you find that what we have today in the country, the neglect taking a high stance. Of course, neglect delivers other kinds of abuse, by the way.
Yes. Could there be a missing link in time? Because people go into love together, they agree, conceive, then upon delivery, one of the parties runs away. Is there some missing link in terms of either preparation, in terms of guiding, or from your own analysis and interaction? What sort of story do some of these single mothers talk of?
To give you an example, we work with one of the districts, and in Central Region, Nakasek has the highest level of probably teenage mothers of children that give birth before the age of 18. And basically, one of the issues that we saw is that if a mother gave birth at 18 years or below 18, definitely after P7, she will look at the daughter and signal and say, you know what, you are old enough. You are old enough, you should get married off. So in many cases, there is a cascade of issues. A mother who gave birth, last time I saw a grandmother of 27. I don't know if you saw a girl who is a grandmother of 27. 27 years. And you know what signal? Because she gave birth at 14 and the girl has given birth at around 13, near the same age. Because the mindset is engraved around there that if I gave birth at 14 and you are 14, you are 15, definitely you are ready for marriage. And so you find that there is a kind of cascade in these communities that is rising and is encroaching generations, and it is taken up every day from one generation to another and going on and going on. So the empowerment that we do is to bring an end to such issues and open up to the families that, you know what, if you stopped in this class, your daughter can go beyond. And this we do by trying to model the girls and trying to create like ambassadors, child ambassadors in communities. We have over 200 of them that we've empowered for over 4 years. And what their role is for other people in the community, beginning with the mothers that looked as though they had no future, look at these girls and say, okay, I am still dreaming again that my girl can be what that girl is. And it is a journey that we work with the parents in all the things that we do. And of course, with the community structures available.
Is poverty anywhere in the picture?
Definitely. Poverty is at the center of this. There's an exchange for dowry, and that's one of the issues that actually these parents give as an excuse for defilement and early marriages. You know, we are poor. The guy came in and he had enough finances, and for that reason, she was ready. And why could we remain poor when we had, and the mindset that girls are just assets, assets of exchange, that when an opportunity for riches comes, then they should move as an avenue to get wealth, is something that we really work on to change the mindsets of people.
So what can be done to really address some of these specific challenges before I go into the other area of street children? I want a broader solution, maybe from your own statistics or research.
We believe that all these child protection issues stem from the family.
Yes.
So we as CRANE and as a network, we are trying to strengthen our family-based care support. If we can be able to rebuild these families, sharing experiences and also training them in positive parenting skills and issues to do with childcare, because maybe most of them have missed out on that opportunity to be guided as parents. If we are able to go through this as a community, as parents, then most of these issues will not come to light, and every child will be appreciated in a home. So if all these abuses are happening in a home, the children run away, and that is where they lead us to the streets.
Yes, and Bella, I want something, the nucleus of a family setup. I don't know whether this is something being borrowed from the developed countries. We see that the family is narrowing every other time. I think a family reemerges during either Easter or Christmas, but these other days when we don't have any big function, or we've lost someone, we have a wedding, people are really closing in. You are with your child and maybe the wife and husband. You don't want to know. And in the process, we are missing out some of the basic ingredients that will help us cope with the challenges of a family. Do you think this is anything that is causing a lot of mayhem we are seeing?
Yeah, I think one of the challenges with that is that of us losing out on the extended family connection is that then it becomes difficult in cases where, you know, the father is dead, the mother is dead, or they are not in position to look after their children holistically, but there is another family member who could do that job, but everyone feels like, you know, I don't want to take on that responsibility because those children are theirs, and I also have my own responsibility to take care of. And that I think has come for a number of reasons. One of them being that there's just so much, loss of trust in people. Even the people that you think are family are now just becoming perpetrators, like they are being abusers of children. We have a girl that is in our care. She was being sexually abused by the father and then later got pregnant with her grandfather. So when they took her from the father, thinking they're rescuing her from abuse, and they took her to stay with her grandfather, it even got worse because the grandfather got her pregnant, So at the end of, and then family decided to abandon her completely, and this one is a curse. So at the end of the day now, somebody's thinking, where am I taking my child for holiday? What are they believing in? What are they doing? Because that uncle who is over there cannot be trusted. That brother who is over there cannot be trusted. This very story that we began with, it was the father himself. So even as a mother, while you're going to work, you're thinking, my child is at home with her dad, who you think is the best protection, but they're actually not safe. So the issue of child safety, I think, comes into play, and because of the many insecurity, like the many cases that we have seen coming up. And then also the other thing I think has been that the development and that has happened. There is a lot of working that is happening. So children are left in baby care, places in daycare. Than when we're growing up, and your mother was busy, they would just take you to the auntie. But now they are resorting to this institutionalization of children into the school system. The child stays at school from morning to the evening, so they don't really have time for interaction. So whereas we are missing out on the social interaction that would have benefited us as well, I think that it's also an issue of child safety that parents are looking at. They are safe. It is safer for you to be in the village with your child when you're there than just sending them there when you're not, present, because anything can happen.
I'm going to ask this rather, it may be an annoying or provoking question, but it's based on what we are seeing over time. When we grew up, a mother would really take maximum care of her siblings, in terms of knowing where you are playing from, which school you are going to. They had all that time. Now, this generation of working now, where the mothers have much attention on work, and you're only leaving a child to a maid or to an auntie, like you're saying, don't you think maybe the new wave of helping women to appreciate work as a way of being part of contributing to the family is causing a very huge problem? Because some of these challenges we are talking about are simply because there is no much attention to the children.
I think that we cannot conclude on with that and say it is because mothers are working, therefore that is why children are losing, we are losing our children, because I know that men really appreciate now that it is the burden of home care, for lack of a better, I'll call it burden, or the responsibility of home care is shared between the mother and father. And it's the same with the responsibility of raising the child shouldn't be just for the woman. It should be a shared role between the father and the mother. And why women are in the workplace is because men have neglected their responsibilities. It's not even just about empowerment of women or us just wanting to say women, have to be emancipated and all of that. I'm personally not that hardcore feminist. I still believe that, women need men to exist. Like it is not, everyone has a specific role that they have to play.
But there are also huge fights in families, especially where a man says one of the two must sit home to look after this, then someone says, I cannot. But
if you can do the job, if you can provide, if you can meet my needs and meet the needs of the children, there are many women that have been creative around working at home. They have started businesses at home, backyard gardens. They do their work in garages. They're working in their compound. These days with social media, you don't even have to have a shop in Kampala. As long as you have products that you want to sell, you can make them inside the house and you just market it on social media. And you get orders, and then maybe you have to deliver your orders every Friday in a week. We have found creative ways as women around working and all of that. But it gets complicated when you don't have support for food, you don't have support for shelter, you don't have support for school fees. And men, I think, you know, I don't know what's happening. For me, these days I'm asking, where are you? Where are the men?
We are not seeing
you know? Yeah, we're not seeing you. What is happening? You know, because at the end of that day, I think this is a time when you should be very proud to just look back and say, oh, my daughter can do this. You know, my wife can do this. And you just share them. And that makes you a proud man. I would think that shouldn't scare you, but I think it is the traditional and the cultural aspect that is affecting us to think that women are competing to take over our positions, to think that, you know, to step back. For me, I call that being, you know, cowards.
What composes a family? Is it just the structure? Is it how much money you get in your pocket? Or there are specific values that everyone who wants to be part of this family must really adhere to and practice on a daily basis?
I think it's value. Yes. Family is a set of, you know, the values, the protection has to be felt, the support has to be there, and then, you know, the belief that you have maybe in whatever religion that you're serving in. And if any of that is missing, then it is definitely going to have an impact on how family operates.
Yes, Helen, your view on this.
Yeah, you know, family does not mean necessarily biological.
Exactly.
Yeah, you may have children that you have appreciated to come into your home and given them, you know, an opportunity to grow up in a safe and secure home. So family as a whole, every family is unique. They will set up their own values. This is how we do things. This is how our children behave. And that is when you go to parties and you see how children behave. And that will tell you how their families are set up. The child will come and jump onto your coat and you're like, whose child is this? You know? But then you will realize another child who you give a sweet and they'll say thank you, and that is, it is unbelievable to hear a child saying thank you. So every family is unique, and the values that they set up to as an opportunity for the children to grow in matter. So it should be a safe home, a home where you can also sit with your children and agree on how some of these things are done, be it food, be it choice of school, or even clothes.
Yes, let's turn to the issue of street children. I think this is also part of your domain. I was moving along Kampala Road this evening around 4-5. Of course, the jam on those roads is really thick. And at least on every 3 vehicles you'd find in the jam, you're seeing some children on the windscreens resembling to try and seek for help, maybe the exact word, to do some begging from the people within in the car. What is the problem? We are seeing a bigger volume of this challenge growing over time within the streets of Kampala.
Yeah, the issue of street children is something that is rising daily, and definitely the key issues, the context of these issues don't just begin with Kampala itself. They begin with the families where these children are coming from, the districts like the Napak and everywhere where these children are coming from. It is stemming not just actually from poverty in its sense. They are people that have actually taken it up as an opportunity for business. And they have created channels and they bring in these children on the street. And definitely that's why our mechanisms working with our partners, and one of them being dwelling places, is that we don't just work on the response whereby you find the children are off the street, and we don't work on the mindset of the people where the children are coming from. Because you find that there is a case that one time I handled, and the child had been in 4 organizations because she was born on the street and taken back. She came back on the street, and she had gone through 4 organizations. And sometimes you take them back to some homes for rehabilitation, and they tell you that home is of this kind. They don't give good food because there is a kind of cycle that is going on beyond the street. And so what we are actually doing is, number one, to set points and have our sensitization and awareness stemming directly from the different regions where these children are coming from. Having the stakeholders, because you know where they are coming from, they have community structures. They have community structures, and more strong community structures that we fit in and try to sensitize them on the challenges of street children, and also try to stop the different channels, because they are middlemen actually in this whole system. It's a kind of practice that is actually close to the kind of slavery that people do, and they get money.
So in this case, what are you doing with the perpetrators? Because you've talked of some element of these children being used. Sometimes I keep wondering, a child is on the streets, maybe he's begging some money, by luck, a good Samaritan in the vehicle gives him like 1,000. And you'll see the child retreating to deliver what he has been given. So are you also dealing with such perpetrators to really ensure that you are curbing the vice? The first lady attempted to take on this measure, because by then she was minister for Karamoja, and I think she thought that this was one area that needed to be addressed, but only to realize that actually the problem was not the communities where they were coming from. The challenge was they were being used as a source of revenue for some parents who really were not conscious of the act they were doing.
Yeah, definitely we are trying to tap in those areas and getting into to those people. But the kind of way to get them has sometimes to work with different people that come from that community. It's not just people coming from Kampala. They actually know these families that they can target. They know which family actually is vulnerable, who's having a child that's not probably in school. They know that kind of family. And so basically we need to use the same families or the children to take us to these people, and of course take them to police and work with the available structure. For example, I think a month back, or probably 3 weeks back, we were working with KCCA on training and working with them to see how they can actually tap into these loopholes and different areas where these children are being trafficked from. We create campaigns. We have the International Day of the Street Children, where we bring them on board, and we know that in Chisenyi we know they are the specific hotspots, because somebody who keeps them in a shackles of a house somehow somewhere gets money in the night, when gets something. And so we use them like on a snowball, and they try to connect us to the kinds of people. But of course the issue is you must give an exchange of what that child has been receiving. If the child has been receiving shelter, the child needs shelter, rehabilitation, of course, and rescue, as we always take in the system.
Yeah, we are remaining with around 4 minutes to the end of the show. Helen, are there any specific gaps when we talk about issues of child protection that we need to holistically look at?
The gaps are there, and these start from the communities. Because if the communities cannot respond to child protection issues, long ago children used to grow up with neighborhoods and that, and so everyone is to himself now. If we can have that community that is supportive, so we have that gap that communities are not that responsive in trying to protect children. And also when we come into our policies and that, they do happen, but actual implementation of some of these policies doesn't realize the protection of the children. And the institutions that we work with, police and some other agencies, they are probably not resourced enough to respond to these emergencies as they come. So we need to always have that collective and networked kind of level of support, that if I cannot do something, another organization can offer that kind of support for a better coordination of service delivery.
And Bella, any way forward as we wrap up?
Yeah, I think on just adding on to what Helen has said, is that this whole issue of child protection really needs a collaborative initiative from family, and please let us take it on personally. Let us not just push it to the next person. Before we blame police, before we ask government, what have you done? Let's ask the question, what have you done? What have you done as a mother? What have you done as a father, as a teacher? In all our capacities, we are able to do something to protect children. And we are also potential abusers. So let us also ask ourselves, am I doing anything to abuse children? And then the other thing is that also let us be empowered with knowledge. Take time to understand your child. Take time to read and understand what's going on so that you're able to know how to respond. Yeah, because many times ignorance is killing us. Many people are doing things out of ignorance. And then together we can raise a better Uganda with our children safe and protected.
David, in 30 seconds, you've said you're operating in 5 districts and you are over 150, consortium of 150. How do you get the other problems? Because issues of children across the country are everywhere. Do you have a network that gathers some of this? Just in 30 seconds.
The network of CRANE, with Children at Risk Action Network, has created working groups along the different districts, depending on the core competences they have. And so the different districts and people that we work with have to respond through the working groups. So in a district where we are not, we try and connect them with the partners that have spread, because, for example, the place is far beyond even Kampala.
Thank you very much. That was David Bwangu, Child Protection Specialist. We also had Helen Mulira, who is Child Protection and People Care Specialist, together with Annabelle Nakabiri, who is the Director for Remnant Protection. They were in the studios to discuss the broader topic of child protection. On behalf of the entire production crew, I'm Innocent Musinguzi, wishing you a very good evening. I'm saying keep tuned because we have news coming up next. Good evening. Thank you very much.
Very strange dream. The Lord, in His infinite mercy, will reveal its meaning.
I lifted up and I looked down. Mom was in one room, you were in another room yelling at God.
For you, Lord, are righteous, yet we rebelled against your command.
We need to get him in surgery right away.
The pain that I suffered watching my son that close to death.
On the ocean. We need a solution. We need it now.
And we'll get it.
How?
By not losing our faith.
Like how a single one. No, I've still got a lot of fire left in me.
The World Cup is here again. Join Peter Otai every Tuesday and Sunday as he brings to you the Road to the World Cup Russia, as he looks at every team, stadiums, players, and history, here on UBC TV.
It's quite the most remarkable piece of goalkeeping.
Alpha without Omega. I